Well, welcome to today's special guest interview. I am so excited to introduce you to Sheevaun Moran, who is like an energy master. So welcome, Sheevaun. I'm like super excited to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm awesome. Enjoying the energy, excited to share and just get everybody's hearts on fire.
Beautiful. And Sheevaun was just telling me she's in Mexico right now. She's writing her 18th book. That's right, 18th, which is pretty amazing. And let me just give you a little bit of background around Sheevaun, and then we'll just jump into our conversation today. So Sheevaun is a world-renowned healer, energetic arts master, author, entrepreneur, trainer, and podcast host. She's like everything. She's also the founder of Energy Mastery, and it's a worldwide certification program for energy medicine, energy healing, energy hygiene, and soul connection. Sheevaun has definitely worked from the ground up. She started with one-to-one healing sessions, and then she's gone on to establish 7 free healing clinics across the US, and now she's teaching people around the world about energy mastery. So I really love that about your story, Sheevaun, that you've come from where many healers come from, which is just starting ground roots with the one-to-one healings and then building it into something that has massive impact and now teaching others to do the same. So kudos to you. Now, also the really cool thing about Sheevaun is that she's the first to teach energy healing in colleges and also in Fortune 100 companies and with CEOs. And now she's using her energetic techniques and principles to grow and help innovate small businesses through her second business, which is Energetic Solutions. So Sheevaun's going to be talking more about energetics and navigating the path from chaos to clarity. So with that, big welcome to Sheevaun. It's so good to have you here. So let's just get a little bit back into your journey and just tell me a bit, what has really been your path and your journey with energy? What's been the thing that's really attracted you to this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was building a pharmaceutical company. I got sick, misdiagnosed, and nearly died. And I decided that I didn't believe in drugs while I'm building a pharmaceutical company. So that's a pretty cool thing. And I'm laying on the emergency room table and they said, "Lady, we have to inject you with this stuff or you're going to die." And I thought, okay, I get it. I get the severity. I get the looks on your face. And so they gave me this really toxic cocktail of stuff to kill all of the stuff inside of me, which I had is called sepsis, which is blood poisoning, which is very lethal. And I decided there while they're away making their cocktail, and I'm thinking, okay, I was not left here on the planet to just go now. This is not the thing I'm here to do. So I'm going to back up the story just another 18 months before that. And the love of my life died in a motorcycle accident. And so I'm laying on the table having this epiphany going, I'm building a pharmaceutical company. I don't believe in drugs. I'm left here. Okay, I'm going to go home and heal myself. That was the only thing I could think about at the time. I'm going to go home and heal myself. I don't even know what that freaking means. And that's exactly my verbatim thought. And I remember thinking, okay, my friend was in the ER and I got him to come back. And I said, "So you're going to take me home?" He said, "Oh, they're not going to let you go home." I said, "Oh, I'm going home." People die here. I know a lot about how people die here. This is not happening. So I went home. I took the cocktail of stuff that they gave me. And I decided that if I could build companies, which I'd helped 4 before that get built and sold, if I could build companies, I could truly heal myself. Again, I didn't know what that meant. I had no basis for this. I'm actually a computer programmer. So I got the engineer brain on me. And so I decided that there was something that I was doing that was unique to get companies and businesses expanded and help them grow their market and really connect with their clients and their customers. And I just laid there for about 2 months and I just started reverse engineering every single thing in my life and that I'd been doing and thinking and shifting and all of the things I've been doing. And I thought, oh, I get it. I'm doing this thing and this is how I'm going to heal my body. And so I use those processes to heal my body. Now it's not just mind. I realized it was energy. I just didn't know it was energy. I just thought it was a unique process. And then I took a class about a year later and I thought, oh, I've been doing this all my life. Doesn't everybody do this? Like, isn't this normal? And so I've been doing it since I was 3 years old. And I recall the moment when my mom told me not to tell anybody what I was doing. And so I've been doing it a long time. I just didn't know it wasn't something everybody on the planet was already doing and exposed to and was an inherent ability in people. And so that's kind of where it all started.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think you'll actually find there's many folks in this room that can relate in terms of kind of like, I guess it's like the unexpected path to energy and healing, which actually is really just the coming back to ourselves, isn't it? We actually realize that to have taken a path that maybe is quite different to who we are.
Yeah, I think when I was building the pharma company, I was bent on being an executive CEO of a pharma company. Well, I am as an executive CEO of a pharma company, just not that kind of pharma.
I love it. Yes. That is also really speaks to that kind of the spiral evolution that I think we all go through. So for me, I've had 15 years in corporate and I sometimes had that feeling of like, am I just leaving this all behind? But really it all spirals back because here I am leaving a company and it just happens to be in a different context. So yeah, I think that's really an inspirational story and so good that you are now doing this work. So I'd love to kind of dive into the topics around energy and moving from that chaos to clarity. So yeah, Sheevaun, let's talk a little bit about, I guess the original state of chaos. What does that really look like? And what does that mean to folks?
Yeah. So we're taught how to think about the problem. We're taught to only solve from the problem. And when we energetically look at a problem, it goes like this and then it expands out. And then it becomes this big, giant hairball of a problem. And so we keep looking and looking and looking and looking and looking from the problem and into the problem. And I'll give some statistics that I found out actually from a client who was going through stage 4 prostate cancer. And he said, I think you're the one who's going to turn this around. He was some famous Hollywood guy. I was like, all right, I think I'm pretty good at it. Let's try. And he said, I want to show you some science. And I want to show you the science of this unique thing. He said, 90% of the men who get prostate cancer and actually die from prostate cancer die because they've had a needle injected into the prostate in order to find the problem. And I was like, oh yeah, because they're looking at the problem and they're expanding the problem and they're making the problem big and they're making it expand to every part of their body. And he said, oh, I would have never gotten that from that piece of information. And so if you just take that science and you say, okay, so 90% of the population or 90% of the time we're looking at the problem as if we're injecting more poop. I call it poop into the problem. So that actually causes, we'll call toxicity. And toxicity then sits into our field. And I say we live in a closed container. Our energy, we're sitting inside of a closed container. Well, you're expanding and expelling that poop into that closed container. And there's no way that you can get out of that spinny, crappy, circular, unconscious, unsolvable stuff by continuing to look at the problem. So that's what chaos looks like. Imagine kind of a tornado that's around you that most of it's brown and gray. And those are the energies that you've been sitting in that are keeping you from sharing your gifts with the most authenticness of what somebody else needs to receive.
And I wonder too, this kind of feeds into like what you focus on growth, which is interesting because like the more that we focus on the problem, the more we're feeding that problem. Is that
Yeah.
Like,
So you take the idea of the injection, it's a needle, and it's a doctor looking inside the needle to see if the thing is tumorous or cancerous or whatever, and how bad it is. And what they're doing is they're looking for the problem, right? They're looking for the cancer. And I said to my client, "Oh, we're not doing this. So we are not going to do this. I'm going to spend this to as many doctors as I can to talk about this, because as soon as you start looking for it, you will find it." Thus, they found 90% of cancer in those people that they were looking for the cancer. And so when we started to look at the science of when they didn't inject something to look for the cancer, those patients, those clients had the ability to release and solve and get maybe to stage 1 or stage 2 and have a very, very, very long life. My dad had prostate cancer. And so he called me when he got diagnosed, and I said, "Oh, all right, this is what we're going to do." And I gave him a litany of things to take action on. And they said, "Well, he'll probably live, 8 months, maybe a little bit more, but that's about it." And I said, "Yeah, I'm really good at this. We are not having that happen." He lived for over 15 years. And so it is amazing. And so I taught him about how not to look at the problem and how to cleanse the energy. So how you deal with a problem is to look like beyond it. So the problem is here and you have to look up here. It's kind of like the airplane who flies at 60,000 feet in the air. It's kind of sacred air and you get there faster. Not all airplanes fly at 60,000 feet. They only do that whenever they're like super late. And so, they're able to get there faster because it's kind of sacred air. And that's what we're doing when we're looking outside of the problem. It's challenging.
I'm relating it to, say, with tarot, like reading tarot for others, probably really any kind of like one-to-one healing session. And you probably, like through our community, you probably notice those times when your client is in problem state versus maybe more towards solution state, or how can I look over in that 60,000 feet view?
Yeah.
And it's just opening up a new layer of awareness for me personally around like how many times are we actually feeding that problem state when we're trying to dig it, and what's the problem there? What's really going on? Are we actually expanding the problem rather than moving towards a solution?
Yeah. So here are a couple words. I hope I can just start giving stuff, if that's okay. As if I haven't already. But so one of the ways to do it, if you're looking, I can see energy and all of those things, the seeing, the hearing, all of those things. So if you're looking at something, the question usually is, so what's wrong? And I like to identify the question is, well, what if? And then I leave the blank. And what happens is usually they'll fill it in with something that you couldn't have ever got in their exact words. And that might be a good opportunity to use that little 2 words.
Yes, I love it. And so again, think of that in tarot about how you could either rephrase the overall question, or you could integrate that into your tarot spreads with your custom questions, moving away from like what's the problem, but the what if this was to happen. Another question I came over this morning is like, even to ask yourself, like, why am I in such a state of flow? So like, let's say you're like not in a state of flow, but the question you ask yourself is like, oh, why am I feeling so much flow in my life? And then you kind of journal in from there as well. Which is interesting.
Yeah. I think we forget to breathe when things are worried. So if you look at the word worry is actually to worry something into existence. And so in the Greek training, ancient Greek training, they had worry beads. They still have them. People don't know how to use them, but they would worry something into existence. Well, we've turned that word worry into something negative and bad when we're worrying the wrong thing into existence rather than worrying the right thing into existence. And so what if we say, I'm not going to worry in that old way. I'm going to worry something into a good way and use breath so that what can happen is it gives expansion, because energy expands when you point toward it, right? And so everything about worrying is usually a negative. Well, let's create a mission, a movement here is like, well, what if worrying is no longer a negative? What if it's really something new and unique that you can bring into existence in a much more uplifting way through breath and worry?
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that, kind of like the zooming out from the problem, lifting above the problem. What does that look like? What are some of the tools and techniques that you use to support others in that process?
Yeah. So somebody has anxiety about money or time or, whatever, their kids or family or spouse, people, I call them peopling. People are peopling. And, if we're sending so say as a practitioner, you're sending something to them about a judgment or an idea or belief. The idea for you is, before you walk into that, is to encourage yourself to, or a better phrase would be, I'm going to sit in suspended disbelief while I'm doing this. And so really what you've done is you've set the container in a pretty new way, and you're not feeding against their energy. You're not playing, and it's not feeding back and forth. Does that make sense?
And it's funny, actually, because before we jumped on this call, we pulled card together. And it was the Hanged Man, which is what really hearing right now, what is suspend belief. How do we kind of get this on its head as the practitioner, as the advisor, the coach, and so on. And it's really interesting that you're saying to do that first internally, like as the healer. And then I assume that there's the next layer, which, sorry, I'll let you jump into.
Yeah. So the next layer is you pretend you have a blank screen. So one of the things I came in with is I could be working with a husband and wife, and I won't remember who the husband is if I'm working with the wife. I won't know anything. I'm really good at they don't exist. They're a complete foreign entity to me. Well, not everybody has that ability. So the way I've taught is to start with a blank screen, kind of like a blank television screen, except it's white. And so you can see that it's a blank screen. And then whenever you get into what's coming toward you, what's getting asked of you, you're not in that mirror reflection. You're just the observer in a whole new way, rather than sitting above it. And, all those things that they tell you to do, just sit above it and watch and do all these things. And it's like, yeah, that's nice. That doesn't always work. And so you use this screen. It's going to help you get to your, have more clarity for your person and for yourself as the person who's going to help them get the transformation. Because really what's going to happen is you're going to have your own data, information, down, whatever you call them. And you're going to have that much more clarity to help them find a solution when you turn something, or you're feeling something, or sensing something, or coaching somebody. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So really having that in your own internal space first.
Like I have people just do it with a white piece of paper, and I'm like, hold that white piece of paper up. So it just becomes your visual cortex before you walk into doing anything.
Interesting. Actually, physically having that one.
Physically. Yeah. Because we have gotten into, particularly woo people. I mean, listen, I'm very woo and very non-woo, but woo people have gotten so into their woo-ness and so good at it. They forget that the tangible assets that are around us are absolutely going to make us that much better and that much more accelerated than any others out there. So have that actual visual cortex of a piece of paper. Look at it before you're ready to do something. It's going to turn everything on its head.
Love it. And that's certainly something you can do in really setting that sacred space, creating the intention, clearing the space, and then being ready to hold a session with that person. And then what about when you're in in process with a client, what are some of the techniques or tools that you could share that would help move someone from chaos to clarity?
Yeah. So our biggest challenge as a practitioner, what I've seen is the biggest challenge as a practitioner is emitting our own thought process and patterns and emitting our own energy onto somebody on accident or intentional. It doesn't matter. It's just an ism. And we have to learn how to use language completely differently. So I say, words have a secret energy to them, and they create an opportunity to be an ally or an enemy. And oftentimes we're using the words as the enemy when we're presenting something to another person. And in order to be an ally, you actually have to, and I happen to be in a Spanish speaking country, you have to kind of think in the Spanish speaking way, and you have to kind of go around it. And so like my little driver, none of the men would give us directions. It was hilarious. And she says, these Mexicans, these Spanish speakers, they just want to go around the thing. And I was like, see, that's exactly what I'm talking about. But for when you're looking and working with somebody, you want to go a little bit around it. You want to kind of dance. And the challenge is you get more practice at this is you're going to want to go direct. And you're going to want to be bold. You're going to want to be in somebody's face. And the challenge with that is they say, put more love into it. Put your left hand on your heart, put more love energy into it. This is from the Nepalese, right? Love, put your left hand on your heart and just start speaking whatever you're going to speak and just kind of dance it around a little bit extra. So it would be like, maybe give me an example of somebody. I don't know, something.
Let's say someone moving through a relationship breakup, because I know many of our readers get that as types of questions. So how could you support that?
Yeah, that's a cool one. So generally they want the person that they've been in a breakup with to come back to them. It's not about right. It's right. Everybody. Yeah, pretty much. Or they want to find that next person. And so they're so caught in it, and you have so much compassion, and that's really cool. But what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to use your white screen again. Right? Put your left hand on your heart, and then you're going to say, so what opportunity? And then say you pulled a card or you have some information or you're going to coach them through it is, so what do you think you need to learn from this? What pretend game can you play in order to come out on the other side a different person? What fun things will you be allowed to do? What opportunity can you see happening from this? This reminds me of a client. One of my early on clients, actually, she came to me and she had tried to commit suicide 9 times. 9 times. And she said, I heard about you and I think you're the one. I was like, oh, okay. That's a lot to put on me. So I'm not going to take that. But what's going to happen is we're going to take you through some processes. And her problem was that her husband was going to divorce her because she was committing suicide because he created affairs and, it was just a tangled mess of chaos, right? And so I said, the first thing you have to walk around is you have to pretend that, notice the words I'm putting in front of, it's all the free words that are going to help. And those are words that have secret energies. Pretend that, what if, all of those words, like if you were to re-listen to this and catch those words and write those down, those are going to be magic words for y'all. And she never committed suicide. She actually got back with a husband and he transformed into a whole new being because of all of these ways that we worked with the energy. So that's, you're going to have to dance around the words and dance around the opportunity to ask them a question without asking them a question. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that we teach like through the tarot reading practice and so on is our role as readers is not so much to give all of the answers and tell what all the cards mean, but to open these spaces for our clients to discover the answers for themselves. And I think, using words like the what if, pretend as if, look as if, act as if, be as if, all of these types of things are really great opening questions that we can use with our sense to support them in reflecting on their part. And, and like pulling cards, I'll just do this as an example. Oh, okay. Like, well, even let's say if it was Two of Swords, which is about kind of feeling at a crossroads and not being able to make a decision, we'll act as if the blindfold has been released. What happens then?
Or here's another phrase is, so what are some cool ways the swords are going to be your ally? Right. So for me and seeing that card, it says, oh, use a samurai sword and cut that energetic connection so you can have some freedom and space in between so you can actually see. So use that sword and cut that. So it's kind of take that and play with it a little differently than you might ordinarily. That's how I see energy.
I love it. Let's play more because I think this is good. Okay. Let's say we pulled the Emperor. What do you see? What are some questions that you might ask just out of the vision?
Yeah. So it would be, where do you find yourself falling behind and not leading? I would say, and the first thing that showed up with that, and here's the really fascinating thing. People who are looking for answers, they're very much in their pride and ego. Very much in pride and ego. And so the Emperor is like, so are you trying to control everything? You're trying to like do it from your ego? Tell me how that's working. And then and notice the tone and the up and the texture of the language. That's the energy of learning how to use the words. So it's going to elicit something new.
Yes, because I hear curiosity in that, reflection, not statements, not judgment, but more, again, it's that opening up of the energetic space to explore. And that,
I like this game.
And like as tarot readers, like this, I truly believe, and as healers in general, this is where we have the most impact, is when we're actually opening up spaces. When we try and tell, the Emperor means, structure, authority, we're actually starting to close down that space energetically. And what we're really aiming to do is open that space. Let's just do one more.
Okay, sure.
But so great. Oh, okay, here we go. Three of Swords. What would be some opening questions?
Oh, gosh, that would be, so I don't know tarot like you all do. So I just look at the picture and I say, oh, well, that says there's some really interesting things going on with your heart. So what's happening with your heart? What's happening with the energy of your heart? And what's happening with the stored energy that you have been getting a little nagging thing that nobody's talking about? And I would just leave that. So I want to point out again, the way I phrase the question is the energy of the words. So it elicits an opportunity for you to become even more their ally than you ever would have before. And it's really amazing that we don't pay attention to words as our ally. We're just used to speaking them and just blah, 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 that stuff out. And the energy behind a word is going to do what you want it to do when you want it to do. So I'll use some of my students as an example. So we were talking about this spray before we started, get things sprayed out, it's magic spray. And so I get on a plane and first thing I do, I get my seat, I get my spray out of my bag and I spray it around and I tell them, so I'm going to use my magic spray. Would you like some? 99.9% of the time, they always say yes. Now, my students are like, oh no, I never get anybody saying yes. Notice how my tone is like play and fun and wonderful. And you're going to have a magical experience because of it. And they're all in and they all become my allies and friends. And that's about the energy that you want to come from your heart, not from your head, and has to always come from here out your mouth. There's an ancient saying that says it's more important what comes out of your mouth than what goes into your mouth. It's more important what you say, more energy than what you say. Because I learned this from ladies in the South. Ladies in the South would be angry and mad at me, and they would tell me off, and they'd say, "I cannot stand you." And I remember thinking, I think, just can't stand. they hate me, but I feel like I just have been left all over. I'm so confused. And so it was the energy behind it with the words that were of hate. It was really fascinating. And so I actually learned that from them. Women of the South speaking like that, saying that, you're thinking, I think I've been left over, but I've been hated on. Okay, it's all good. And then it really distorts your whole being. And then you can do that for your clients in order to help them get a response.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, so I'm really hearing like there's that energetic alignment, getting yourself into alignment definitely before and during, using the words that open that curiosity, and having the tone, which also flows really from the energy, and having that intonation that is aligned with the words and the curiosity and so on.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about, how do you know then when your client or the person you're working with is at least on track towards clarity or has reached a point of clarity? What kind of signs do you see? What words do you hear? What sort of shifts?
Yeah. So some of the cues are, some of the cues where it's not, where they're trying to resist, they'll go like this. They'll cross their arms. That's a classic one. Or they'll cross their legs, or they'll look down and they'll try to look away. And it's just like, oh, you're on a good trail. Or Sheevaun, and this is so small. They'll take a little breath that you won't notice. And this is something that you're going to have to learn. This is what we teach in the school is to notice the unnoticeable. Notice the things that don't make sense, that are going to give the signal for a shift. Because 99% of the time people are like, nothing happened. No, that's not true. That's not real. That can't be. We all know it, right? And so, in order for you to catch them in it in a real way and say, I love this one. Use this, everybody. But you took a breath. What about that? And then just shut up. Oh, it just elicits so much yummy stuff. And then by the time you're done, what you will have found is so many new cool things will have shown up for you, for them, that they're just going to want to come and keep getting worked on, getting worked with, getting your help. Yeah.
And I think the key is the shut up part, or maybe we might call it silence.
It is. I know. I don't know how many people I've told, just shut up. Just shut up. I mean, I'll tell you a story of how I lost a deal when I was in pharma. It's actually happened to be the largest pharmaceutical company in the world. I lost that deal. I was so blissed out, and I'm very grounded, but I was so blissed out. I'd just come from some massive retreat, and I was holding onto the table with my hands, and I overtalked, and I could see myself over talking, and the deal was already signed. All I had to do was hand the paper to the guy, but I overtalked and I lost the deal. And so that deal, $10 million, that deal cost me $10 million. Not me personally, but the company I was helping. But it cost me a lot. And so I missed out on that deal because I didn't shut up. So the key thing is just be quiet, more magic.
Yes. And it's those spaces in between that I think contain so much magic. And this is obviously more of the gift of when you're being able to read in person, and you have more of that connection, or even like online, but real time. And just opening up those spaces of silence, and, letting them be silent too. It's oftentimes it's so uncomfortable, like, oh, my client's not talking. Okay, better just keep reading my cards or something. Fill the space. But actually open the space, right?
That's when you cut the cords and you take a breath. And if you have to, and you can do it, is just like, look at your white paper that's just sitting right there. Really have your tools in front of you. And so what if somebody sees you looking at your white paper? Who cares?
Yeah, absolutely. What would be kind of one takeaway that you'd love to share with our community, like as tarot practitioners and healers? What's an energy clearing alignment practice they can bring into their own personal practice? Because things like self-care is critical. Keeping your own energy aligned is critical. have you got like one little takeaway that you can
Yeah.
share?
So think of the container. So we're all inside of our bubbles, right? We're bubble bumping, right? And they're going off, people who have shinier bubbles, are going to get polluted and their bubbles are going to get polluted. So if you have gifts, abilities, etc., you've actually been given the opportunity to clean up your bubble. So, but you tend not to do it. And you tend not to do it on a consistent and regular basis. But the key thing about you being as magical as you can be and as effective as you can be is you have to clean up that bubble. So we teach that in the school. I think we've got a thing we're going to share and show you how to do it. But one of the most important pieces is if you are not doing something for yourself for at least 45 minutes every single day, you will get out of integrity with your abilities. Just the truth. If you're not doing something before you go to sleep and you're sleeping on people's crap, because this is what I see a lot of practitioners do. They're sleeping on people's crap. If you're not doing something to solve that before you go to sleep, then what you end up with is you end up with not being able to purge, and it becomes part of your cellular structure and your DNA. And so the thing that supposedly solves that is sugar, but then it becomes its own catalyst for something that's a downward spiral, which actually will get you to read improperly, which is interesting. And then it will get you to want to put more physiological barriers between you and your client or your potential client. And so it's like, what can you do in the morning? What can you do before you sleep? One of the key fastest things that I did for myself is, I'm at the ocean, right? There's a reason. Because of the salt water, take a salt bath or a salt shower every day for 15 minutes, just 15 minutes. Okay. Shower, put it everywhere. The salt and the ions of the salt will help remove some of that poopy energy. And if that's all you get before you go to bed, you will feel so much better. I have a dentist who sees a lot of people that I'm helping right now. And he said, I've been sleeping like crap. I said, are you using my system? Are you using the protocols? He's like, no. And I said, and so how's your life with your wife? And he said, it's crap. I said, you're going to take the salt bath, salt shower? He said, yes.
That's the thing, isn't it? We often think like, oh, these are just a nice to have, but it is critical, like absolutely critical, to be operating like in full integrity as a professional, and also with that longevity and sustainability. It's so critical to have these practices in place. It's not a nice to have.
And a lot of practitioners get very gray. I'm not gray. I'm very, very, very committed to what I'm here to do and be as bright and shiny as I can. Sorry if it's too shiny, but it's good because then I can help more people. And that's what you want, is you want to be shiny so you can help more people.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I think this will be a good time just to share the giveaway that you wanted to share with our community. And so it's the 5 essential energies for immediate success. Sheevaun, do you want to just speak a little bit to this resource?
Yes. So I'm a little bit of an overgiver. So if you're ever reading anything about me or anything I'm doing, I'm going to overgive. And this is one of those overgives. And so it goes through 5 energies, and it talks about the different energies in 5 parts of the realm. So your physical body, what to do about that, mental body, your spiritual self, etc. And what happens when you're not in integrity, and then what to do about to get into integrity. And integrity could be clean up Poopyville, have a new epiphany, really stick with the things that are going to get you closer to your goal. And so it's designed to get you closer to goal. There's a lot of data in there. There's a lot of information. Use it. The reason it's there is for you to utilize it so that you can be a better healer, practitioner, coach, whoever you are of service, and so that your soul can do what it's here to do. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for offering that to our community.
I think this would help. Because people ask me about readers all the time. And I will say this. In the beginning, when I first started doing this, I was like, oh yeah, here we go. But the cool thing about that and the way I see everything that you all bring to the table is you get to bring something that nobody else can bring. You get this cool opportunity that they're going to listen in a new way that they're not going to listen to somebody else because you have something physical outside of you. I don't use cards. I use my head and my hands and for all of this energy stuff. I think if you can work on your solar plexus, like your solar plexus is going to be your magical spot at making you that much more of a magical reader. Because when people say, oh, what do you think about tarot? I'm like, make sure their solar plexus is really good. And I say this all the time. And why do I say that? Because the solar plexus is the center of our body. Yes, and many other things, but it's the container of all the poopy stuff or the things that you can emit forth. And if you can clean up your solar plexus before you get out into the world and do your magical work, people will hear you in a completely new, yummy, beautiful way. I always want people to hear readers in a beautiful, new, yummy way because y'all are some of the first line of defense for people taking action on things they would hardly ever want to take action on. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah. And it's interesting just hearing you say first line of defense because I think you've actually really nailed it. This is often a very early entry point to people being ready for spiritual work and the transformation and so on. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So I really honor where you're at and where you're going and what you're doing because you are doing something that is going to help somebody open up and blossom that somebody else just can't do. Western medicine can't do it. A therapist can't do it because they're stuck in their ways. You can give them new, bright, light, shiny stuff. So if you are kind of hunched over, you're going to find that your solar plexus is thick. These are just physical signals. If you're good at scanning and sensing energy, if it's sticking real far out, it's sticking far out. So if you're agitated, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're in that negative worry, that's when your solar plexus is going to be sticking out. And that's why I gave you that thing of the white paper. So you can actually neutralize some of that. It's not going to be the same as an energy cleanse, but you're actually going to be able to neutralize it. I think in the book, we've got some tools that you can use to cut cords and do some basic things in order to get yourself sorted out. But there's a cool thing. If you can do 10 jumping jacks, this will totally, totally shift your energetic field. If you can do that, your reading and your interaction with that person is going to be that much better.
Sheevaun, I would love for you to share a little bit more about how folks can find you.
Sure.
Yeah, go for it.
Sure. Cool. So you can go to SheevaunMoran.com, SheevaunMoran.com. And then on there at the bottom, it actually gets you to the school. It's easier than just giving you a bunch of different websites. It gets you to the school about energy. And that's called Energy Mastery. And so if you go there, what you'll find is all kinds of ideas and thoughts to be like the hangman apparently regularly, to really turn things around in the way you've been viewing energy, time, money, health, etc. And if you want to reach out to me, reach out to me at author@SheevaunMoran.com. I read everything that comes in. So yeah.
Fantastic. And don't forget to get a copy of the 5 Essential Energies. So remember that's number 5, essentialenergies.com. And I think that's going to be great in terms of your own personal energy practice, and energetic alignment, plus how you can connect with your clients on a deeper level as well. So really appreciate you sharing that. I just know that this has helped so many people. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here. And I just want everybody to thrive.
I really do hope and see where you can really integrate a lot of what Sheevaun has shared today into your own practice to continue evolving and elevating the way that you're reading tarot. And we'll see you all very, very soon. All right, bye for now.
Hey, if you loved this video, then make sure you check out this next video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. See you next time.